Captain Alara Voss stood at the heart of the bridge, her gaze locked on the view of New Terra as it flickered through the viewport. The planet was a ghost of its former self, its once thriving cities reduced to crumbling ruins, the air heavy with smoke. Her fingers brushed the edge of the console, cold metal beneath her skin. The Zyphorian fleet was closing in. This was it. Shields at 20%, Captain. Lieutenant Markson's voice cut through the tension, strained with disbelief. We're not going to hold much longer. Alara didn't look at him. She couldn't. The numbers flickering on the screen were enough. The defenses they'd fought to maintain for years were breaking, and soon, New Terra would fall. Her mind raced. There had to be something more they could do. The fleet had fought valiantly, but they were outgunned, outmatched. The Zyphorians had the upper hand. It felt as if the entire universe had conspired against them. They had one last card to play, but it was nothing more than a myth, a legend. Captain, another salvo inbound, Markson warned. Prepare for impact, Alara ordered, her voice steady. All hands, brace for. The blast hit. The bridge shook as the shockwave rattled through the ship. Alarms screamed in protest. The view of New Terra seemed to blur on the screen as another defensive shield was obliterated. Report. Alara snapped, grabbing onto her station for balance. Her heart raced. The clock was ticking down to 0. We've lost another capital ship, Markson's voice was hollow. We're down to only 5 combat vessels, Captain. The Zyphorians have at least 50. We can't win this. Alara's jaw clenched. She'd known this moment was coming. They all had. But it didn't make it any easier. The weight of her command, the responsibility for every life on this ship, threatened to crush her. Focus, she thought. Get me communications with the fleet, she commanded, her voice unwavering. A few moments passed before a shaky voice answered. Captain, this is Admiral Core. We've lost contact with the outer defense ring. We're on our own now. Alara's mind raced. The Zyphorians were methodical, unrelenting. It was as if they'd planned this assault for centuries. It didn't matter that New Terra had once been a bastion of human resilience, it was just another prize to them. But then something clicked in Alara's mind. A name. A call. A last-ditch hope. Wait, Alara said, interrupting Core. She turned towards her communications officer, Lieutenant Donnelly. Send the signal. Now. Donnelly blinked, confused. Captain, with all due respect, you've seen the files. That's a myth. The so-called human legacy. They're gone. Everyone says they're gone. I don't care, Alara shot back, her voice firm. Send the damn signal. The room grew silent as Donnelly hesitated for a heartbeat. Alara's eyes never left the view of New Terra, now mere minutes from destruction. She could hear the thudding of her own heartbeat in her ears. She was gambling on a myth, an old, almost forgotten rumor of a human force that could transcend time and space. An ancient group of soldiers whose power could change the tide of war. Some whispered they were energy beings, others said they were humanity's last, most powerful warriors, lost to time. But it didn't matter. She had to try. She had to believe. Yes, Captain, Donnelly said, finally. He moved quickly, his fingers flying over the console, tapping in the code for the ancient, encrypted signal. The data hummed as it sent into deep space, broadcasting on frequencies no one had dared touch in generations. Signal sent, Donnelly confirmed, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Now we wait. How long until we get a response? Alara asked, the urgency rising in her voice. Impossible to know, Donnelly replied, his brow furrowed. The signal's on an old, low-frequency band. We could be waiting days or minutes. We don't even know if anyone's still out there. Alara nodded, her eyes still focused on the view of New Terra. The moment felt interminable. They had no backup. No reinforcements. Just this signal, a desperate hope. And yet, something in her gut told her that it had to work. They didn't have a choice. Minutes passed. The bridge was quiet, save for the sound of the ship's alarms and the steady hum of the systems. Alara barely registered it. She was lost in thought, replaying the desperate moments of the past few days, the final messages from Earth, the last-ditch efforts of their fleets to hold the line. All had failed. Until now. "Captain," Donnelly's voice broke the silence, "I'm getting something." Alara's heart leaped. She spun toward him, but Donnelly was staring at his screen, wide-eyed, fingers hovering over the console. "What is it? What's coming through?" I don't know," he stammered. "It's not a normal transmission. It's a frequency I've never seen before. It's almost like..." The screen flickered, cutting him off, and then it came. A voice. "To the human commander, you are not alone." The voice echoed through the bridge, chilling Alara to the core. It wasn't human. Not in the way she expected. But it carried a power, an authority, that felt ancient and unearthly. "Who are you?" Alara asked, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to remain composed. The voice on the other end paused before replying. "We are a remnant. A part of your legacy. We answer your call." Alara's breath caught in her throat. The myth, it was real. "Can you help us?" Alara's words were almost pleading now. The situation was dire, and the weight of what she was asking hit her like a physical blow. "We can," the voice answered. "But the price of our help is not one you may wish to pay." Alara's grip tightened on the console, the tension building. This was it. The moment of truth. "Whatever it is," Alara said, her voice resolute. "We'll pay it." The voice was silent for a long moment. And then, the words came, carrying the weight of centuries. "Then we begin." The hum of the ship's engines had become an unsettling lullaby. The atmosphere on the bridge of Talon 9 was suffocating, every crew member, every officer, staring at the same viewport, watching the slow, inevitable approach of the Zyphorian fleet. But Alara's thoughts weren't on the enemy anymore. They couldn't be. The signal had been sent, and now, all that mattered was whether or not the legend of the human legacy was real. "Captain," Donnelly's voice broke the silence. "I'm picking up something, there's an anomaly. It's not like anything we've ever seen before." Alara turned sharply. Her eyes met his, her pulse quickening. "What do you mean? Is it the Zyphorians?" "No," Donnelly replied, his voice strained. "It's something else. It's coming from the coordinates we sent the signal to." Her heart pounded in her chest. "Can you pinpoint it?" Donnelly nodded, tapping furiously at his console. The image on the screen shifted, and a small blip appeared in the vast expanse of space. It was distant, so faint it could have been mistaken for a glitch, except it wasn't. It was real. Slowly, the blip expanded, coalescing into something more tangible. "That's not possible," Lieutenant Markson whispered, his voice barely audible. "That's a ship?" It wasn't a ship, at least not in any conventional sense. The object was an ethereal mass of energy, shimmering and shifting, like a mirage but more solid, more deliberate. Alara's breath caught in her throat. This was no ordinary spacecraft. The energy radiating from it was raw, primal, and distinctly alien, yet there was something unmistakably human about it. Something that resonated deep within her. "Activate long-range communications," Alara ordered, her voice steady despite the storm of thoughts rushing through her. "We need to make contact." The comms officer hesitated but quickly complied. The screen blinked to life again, and the shimmering shape on the other side of space flared briefly, as if acknowledging the call. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, the voice came through, clear, crisp, and almost ancient. "Commander Voss," it said. The words weren't in any language she recognized, but they vibrated in her bones, and she understood. "We have received your call. We are the echoes." Alara's pulse quickened, the weight of the moment settling in. "You are the humans?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The voice responded, but there was no warmth in it, only a quiet, powerful certainty. We are remnants. Fragments of what once was. We have waited. Donnelly looked at Alara, his confusion mirrored in the eyes of the rest of the crew. Remnants? Fragments? What do you mean? The voice continued, its tone unwavering. We were the soldiers. The warriors. The last of humanity's finest, who fought in the Great War. When the last battle ended, we transcended. We became something more, something beyond flesh and blood. We became what you called the human legacy. But not all of us remained. Only those who were worthy. Worthy? Alara echoed. Worthy of what? Of this moment, came the response, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Of the final battle. The one that will decide your fate. A shiver ran down Alara's spine. The Zyphorians have already won. You've seen the fleet. There's no way we can fight them. Our weapons are gone. Our defenses are falling apart. How can you help us? The voice fell silent for a moment. The shimmering energy mass outside the ship seemed to pulse in response, as if considering her words. When it spoke again, the tone was different, slower, more deliberate, like a teacher explaining something fundamental. We do not fight as you do. We do not need weapons. We fight with will, with purpose. And we fight because you, Alara Voss, called us. That is enough. Alara's mind raced. What did that even mean? What are you asking of us? You want us to, what? Just stand by and watch you fight? The voice didn't answer right away. Instead, the image on the screen shifted again, more defined now, more real. It wasn't just a mass of energy, it was shaping itself into something more humanoid, more solid. The form that emerged was tall, imposing. A figure of light, clothed in an aura that seemed to flicker like 1,000 stars. For a brief moment, it almost looked human, an idealized human figure, noble and untouched by time. We are not here to fight for you, the voice said. You will fight alongside us. Your will, your resilience, is all we need. The Zyphorians will break in the face of your defiance. Alara frowned. We're outnumbered. How can you expect us to fight alongside you? We don't have the strength left. You have the strength, the voice cut through her protest. It is not in numbers or weapons, Captain. It is in your spirit. It is in your heart. You are human. And that is why we are here. You will show the galaxy that the spirit of humanity cannot be extinguished. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air. Alara felt a flicker of something inside her, an ember that had been smoldering since the first shots had been fired in this war. Hope? She hadn't dared hope for so long. We are ready to lead, the voice continued. But you must act, Alara Voss. We cannot take the Zyphorians alone. We will need your command. Your strategy. Your leadership. You are more than a symbol of humanity's last hope. You are its very heart. Alara's mind reeled. She wasn't ready for this. She wasn't prepared to shoulder the weight of their legacy. But the reality was undeniable. This wasn't just a chance to survive, it was a chance to fight back. A chance to show the Zyphorians that humanity was not to be crushed, not now, not ever. Her voice was steady now, determined. Tell me what we need to do. The form of light on the screen seemed to pause, considering. Then, slowly, it spoke. We will merge our energy with your ships. You will feel it, a power coursing through you. It will enhance your strength, your speed. Your fleet will become an extension of us, and we will become an extension of you. Together, we will break the Zyphorians. A spark of understanding flickered in Alara's chest. You're saying we'll become more than just human. We'll become something else. Something more, the voice answered. Alara turned to her crew, who were watching her intently. Prepare for the merging, she ordered, her voice firm. All systems, sync with the legacy. We do this now. The ship hummed as the energy around them shifted, the first flickers of power beginning to coalesce. Outside, the shimmering mass of the human legacy expanded, intertwining with the Talon 9. And with it, a single thought echoed in Alara's mind, one she hadn't dared speak aloud until now. This was humanity's final chance. The tremor that ran through the Talon 9 was unlike anything Alara had ever felt. It wasn't the usual aftershock of an explosion or the static hum of malfunctioning systems. This was something deeper, something primal, as though the ship itself was awakening from a long slumber. As the merging began, the bridge felt charged with raw power, the very air vibrating with an energy she couldn't comprehend. "Captain, the systems are responding," Donnelly said, his voice tense, but full of awe. We're aligning with them. It's like nothing I've ever seen." Alara could feel it too. Her fingertips tingled as she gripped the armrest of her chair. The energy from the legacy coursed through the ship, amplifying their systems, supercharging their shields, and upgrading their weaponry with an efficiency that seemed impossible. It was as though they were no longer merely humans piloting a warship, but something more, something larger than themselves. "Status report, Lieutenant," Alara barked. Markson's face was pale as he watched his screens. "We've got an active field. Our weapons are upgraded. I mean, Captain, these aren't just ordinary cannons anymore. They've become more powerful." Alara finished for him, her eyes narrowing in determination. "Good. How's the fleet looking?" "Fleet is sinking as well. It's like we've all been plugged into the same network. They're all getting the same boost," Markson said, his voice shaking with disbelief. "But, Captain, we don't know how long this power will last. We're running blind here." Alara's mind churned. She knew that they couldn't rely on this power forever. The legacy was offering them an advantage, but it wasn't permanent. They had to strike now, before the Zyphorians could adapt to the change. "We don't need forever," she said, her voice sharp and clear. "We need one chance. One strike." She turned her focus back to the viewport. The Zyphorian fleet was just ahead, a massive armada that covered the expanse of space like a dark cloud, impenetrable and terrifying. Their ships were a jagged blend of organic and mechanical, designed to disorient and destroy. Their sheer numbers had once been enough to instill despair, but now, Alara could feel the confidence surging through her veins. The legacy had given them something they'd lost long ago: hope. "Activate all systems," she ordered. "Lock weapons, prepare to engage at full power." Outside, the shimmering form of the legacy's energy structure coiled around the ship, like a protective cocoon. It was now fully integrated with the Talon 9, and as the energy pulsed, the ship seemed to hum with life. The other ships in the fleet were doing the same. They were no longer just vessels, they were living, breathing parts of something larger. "Captain, the Zyphorians are advancing," Markson said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "They're charging their weapons. This is it. This is the final battle." Alara nodded, her gaze fixed ahead. "All ships, follow my lead. Engage on my mark." The seconds felt like hours. The tension was unbearable as the Zyphorians closed in, their weapons primed and ready. Alara felt a flicker of doubt, a fleeting shadow that threatened to overtake her, but she banished it. They had no choice. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the very soul of humanity. "Mark." Alara's voice was a command, and Markson didn't hesitate. "Engaging now, Captain." The Talon 9 shot forward, its engines roaring to life with the full force of the legacy's power. The other ships followed, a unified front. Weapons charged with an unnatural brilliance, and for the first time, Alara could feel the true might of the human spirit thrumming through every system. The ships were no longer simply machinery, they were extensions of humanity's will. "Fire!" Alara shouted. A salvo of laser fire tore through the void, cutting through the Zyphorian ships with terrifying precision. It wasn't just firepower, it was an onslaught, an overwhelming force that crashed through their defenses as if they were made of paper. The Zyphorian ships faltered, their hulls cracking under the pressure. "Captain, we're tearing through them." Markson shouted, his disbelief palpable. This is impossible. But Alara didn't have time for celebration. She was focused, calculating, watching as the Zyphorian fleet responded. Their ships were beginning to retaliate, launching counterattacks with devastating force. But this time, it wasn't enough. The Talon 9 was faster, more maneuverable, its shields impenetrable, its weapons devastating. The bridge was alive with movement as crew members worked frantically, coordinating the battle. Alara's mind raced, every part of her focused on the task ahead. The legacy had given them the strength, but it was up to her to guide them through the storm. Status of the fleet? Alara asked, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. Taking heavy fire, Captain, Markson said, his fingers moving rapidly over his console. But they're holding. We're pushing the Zyphorians back, Captain. They're retreating, no, they're regrouping. They're trying to form a defensive line. Alara's lips tightened. Not good enough. We need to break them now. All ships, follow my lead. Full assault, take out their command ship. There was no hesitation from the fleet. One by one, the human ships surged forward, locked in a perfect formation, a single organism of destruction. The legacy was with them. They were more than just humans now, they were a force of nature. The Zyphorians tried to adapt, to shift their tactics, but they were too slow. The human fleet, powered by the legacy, was relentless. A storm of lasers, missiles, and energy blasts descended on the Zyphorian command ship, breaking through its once impenetrable shields. The massive ship groaned under the assault, its hull shuddering with every impact. Captain, their command ship is going critical. Donnelly called out. We've got them. Alara's chest tightened. The battle wasn't over, but this was a turning point. The Zyphorians were reeling. They weren't just fighting humans, they were fighting the spirit of humanity itself, an indomitable will that refused to be broken. We can win this, Alara muttered to herself, more to reassure herself than anyone else. The Zyphorian command ship exploded in a flash of light, its remnants scattered across space like broken glass. A cheer erupted from the crew, but Alara held up her hand. Don't get cocky, she said, her voice sharp. We're not done yet. The remaining Zyphorian ships were scattered, disorganized. The legacy had given them the strength to tip the scales, but it was humanity's resolve that would win this war. The battle continued, but with every passing moment, the tide shifted. The Zyphorians were being pushed back, their once unfathomable numbers now dwindling. And with every ship they destroyed, Alara could feel the weight of her ancestors, their strength, their legacy, pulsing through her veins. As the final Zyphorian ship exploded in a ball of fire, the Talon 9 and the remaining human ships drifted into the quiet of space. The fleet had won. Against all odds, they had triumphed. Alara sat back in her chair, her breath ragged, but her eyes shining with a newfound fire. We did it, she whispered. And for the first time since the war began, Alara allowed herself to believe it.